Hello, welcome to another special Sudoku solve video. Today I am continuing the Sudokuvania puzzle, and I have been looking at it off camera, and I sadly have not made any progress, so I'm hoping to do that now. Um, I did have some revisions into, well, wrong deductions I made. This doesn't have to be a purple square, because if these are both black cells, that doesn't have to be purple. That can just be an 8 or a 9 without it being a purple cell. For this one, what I had in my head is that this is a 2-5 pair. Because if this is purple, right? In the case where this is purple, that has to be a 2-5 cell square, because it cannot be a 4. 4 is in one of those. Then the 2 and the 5, if there was a 5 there, you would have two smaller numbers than 5 and you don't have any. So if this is purple, it couldn't be 5, so that would then be a 2-5 pair. But then you could just have a 5 with a 7-9, and that does work. So that doesn't have to be a black cell. That being said, I think it can be a 5. If it's a 5, then the 2 still goes with a 4, and the other digit is like a 7, 8, or a 9, but then this just has to be bigger than it. So if that's a 7, that would have to be a 9, and that could be a 5, 2, 4, and then we would fill the box in a proper way. So that does work. Now, that's where I left off, so that's less progress than last time, but that's okay. I also bought a microphone, as hopefully is audible. I tested some of the audio qualities, and I think it's better than what I had with the headset, so I am going to try it out for a bit. And I also like not having to have the headset on. I like that as well. Now, okay, so where we left off is this, and then if I'm looking at it, could that be a 7? If that's a 7, then that is either an 8 or a 9, because it has to be bigger than it. And then we have an 8-9 pair. If that's 7, that's 1, that's a 6, and that would have to then be 7, 8, or 9, and it couldn't be. So that's not a 7. It's a 1-6 pair. I think it's also a bit hard for that to be a 6, because if it's a 6, that's a 1, that's a 6, that would have to be 7 or 8. That would have to be 7 or 8, because it would have to be bigger than a 6, and it couldn't be a 9. So that would give us a 7-8 pair, and a 7-8 pair there, and there. But that would have to be a 9 with a 1. With a 2, I mean. A 9 with a 2. And this would have to be a 7-8 pair. That would then have to be a 1 or a 2. And that would have to be a 9. But that's already pretty far, right? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. So, okay, what can this cell be? Because this can be either 2, well, all the options are 2, 5, 7. What else? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9 is not possible. Okay, 2 would mean that it goes with a 4, because if you place the 4 there is no digit smaller than a 4 in the box. So then that would have to be a 4, so then that would have to be a 1. If that's a 5, I think you have a lot more options. If that's a 5, you have a lot more options, because then that could be either 7 with another 1, or 9 with a 3. And if that's a 7, it goes with double 1. So that is a 1 or a 3. Is it? And it's always smaller than this one. This cell is always smaller than this cell. Because if that's a 7, that's a 1. If that's a 5, it's a 1 or a 3. And if that's a 2, it's a 1. So it's always smaller than that, so it's black. But I don't know anything about these cells, so that's... I don't know. I don't know how relevant that is. If that's a 1, it does a lot of stuff, because that makes that a 6. That is 7, 8, 9. That a 2. So that's then a 9. This is the case where this is a 1, right? Then that's a 1. That's 7, 8, 9. And that's a 6, 1, 6. So that's 7, 8, 9 again. So we have 9 with a 7, 8 double. 7, 8 pair there. And then that would have to be a 1 or a 2. And then that's a 9. But that's all. Okay, so if neither of these is 1, right? Then 1 cannot be next to a black cell, and 1 cannot be there. So one of those is 1. So if that's a 1, that is a 1, and then that's a 1. So one of those is then 1. But that seems fine, because you want a small digit to be in there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Let me pause and look at it. Yeah, let me pause and look at it real quick. Okay, I think I figured it out. If that is 8, I am not going to lie, that took me like 15 minutes, so I'm happy I paused. And then again, I'm happy I paused. Somewhat, I'm like, I should show the thinking process. But if that is 8, right, then that's a 1 because of how the line works. If that is 8, that's 1. That's a 6. That 6 forces a 7 there because it cannot be a 9, so we have a 7, 8 pair. Then this 6 makes that a 1, makes that a 6. Then what is this? It has to be a 9, but it can't because it's on an arrow, so that's a 9. That is a 2. Wow, okay. That is suddenly a lot more stuff. Let's see, 9. That cannot be a 9. Okay, the rest all, I think, still can be 9s. So we know that... Was it right, this double pencil mark then? Because now I think that can also be a 1. Because whatever you put next to it is going to be bigger. No, it wasn't. It wasn't correct. It's so easy to make mistakes like that, though. So where does 1 go? It doesn't go into any of those. So 1 is still in one of those. That is correct. Yeah, okay. And 3 is bigger than 2, so that can still go in one of those. However, 8 cannot be in any of these, because you cannot put a number bigger than it here. 8 cannot be in any of those, so 8 is in one of those, but that's not a good pencil mark. So what now? What is the next step? Could this ever be a 3-cell arrow? Because it cannot... I don't know. I don't know if it could. I don't know anything about anything, I think. but that's okay. This can all be 1 or 2, so it's a minimum of 3 already. And this one could be a lot of stuff. Okay, so that doesn't really matter. This one has to be smaller than this one. Okay, so could this be a 3-cell arrow? Because if it is, right, it must contain a 1, so that will make that a 6 with a 7 and an 8, which would put a 7 or 8 there. Because if it doesn't, if it's a 3-cell arrow and it doesn't contain a 1, it contains a 4, and because then it would be 2, 3, 4 with a 9 attached to it, but it doesn't. But that's not correct. So 4. So that then that would contain a 1, so then that would be 6, and then that would be 7 or 8. So it couldn't be a 3-cell arrow. It's a 2-cell arrow with a bulb attached to it. And this one is larger than this one. But it could be, what's the minimum it could be with a 2 and a 1? No, so if it contains a 1, right, it is already 7 or 8 with a 1. And then that would be 9. So if it doesn't contain a 1, would mean it contains a 2 with a 3. But if it contains, well, though, this is either a 1-3 pair or it's a 6, or this is a 6. So if it contains a 3, it also puts a 7 or 8 there, so it doesn't contain a 3. So this line doesn't, so this arrow doesn't contain a 3. It could contain a 2 with a 5. So the minimum for this is 7. I am fairly sure about that one. So that is a small digit, so it is 1, 2, 3, or 4. But that's kind of logical, I think. So is that correct? Is there any way to make this add up to 6 with, so 1, 5 doesn't work because then that contains a 1 and makes that a 7 or an 8. If it contains a 3, it doesn't work, so it isn't. 2, 4, no, because of the 4. 2, 3 doesn't work because of the 3 thing. Yeah, no, so the minimum you have then is 2, 5, which makes that a 7, okay. That's fair. Now 9, again, 9 isn't one of those, but that's, you sort of know. If that's a 1, that is a 1 though. If that's a 6, that is a 7, 8 pair. If that's a 6, that's a 1, that's a 6. But then around this 6 you need, oh, then that would be a 9, 7, 8. No, 6, and then that would be a 6. Then we would need digits higher than 6. And that's 7, 8, and 9. And that would break that cell, so this is a 1. So that's a 1, that's a 6. But that's kind of the worst of the options, right? Because the 6 would force so much more. However, that does make that a 3. Makes that a 5. With a 9, and that's the only way that would work. So that's not a 5 anymore. Making that a 2 with a 4. And then that's a 7. Okay, my pencil marking was correct. So that is a black cell, right? Yes, okay. That gives me so much more stuff to work with. 3 cells. Now I don't know anything about their color. Could you put 3 in one of those two? Well, okay, because we know the 6 goes with a 7 and 8. So we know that that's a 3. Know that that's not a 3. The 9 we now know, so that is a 9. And that's an 8. So we do know a lot more stuff, so that's a 7. Yeah, okay. I think that's where we have what we know. Let's think. 3, 3. Also, I am not sure if these outside cells count, but I'm going to assume they don't. If we have two... Yeah, if these are two high digits, we already use 6 and 9, so then it would be 7 and 8. And if it's 7 and 8, there would have to be a 1 or a 2 between them. But that does seem to work. And if they are small digits, neither can be 4 because they would place a 9 in the middle. Neither can be 3 because of in the row, and then it would be a 1 or a 2 with a 7 or an 8 in the middle. So this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 7 or 8. And these were 1, 2, 7 or 8. So it's almost a 1, 2, 7, 8 quadruple, but it isn't. However, if that's a 1, what is that going to be? So that doesn't work. If it's a 2, that has to be a 1, so that doesn't work, so we know. Okay, that makes it a bit easier. In fact, where does 1 go in that box? Because if you place it next to a black cell, you have a problem. So none of those are 1s. That isn't a 1, so one of those is a 1. We know that one of those is a 1, so that is a 1. So either one of those is a 1. And now 2, does that have the same problems? 2 couldn't be next to the 3. That couldn't be a 2. But that could be, so one of those is a 2. So that is a 1-2 pair. That does seem to work, okay. That is, I don't know, that is interesting, I think. To see that working in that way. These cells have influence on things that I'm not able to anticipate. I have a very bad feeling for these, how these work. If that's a 7, then that has to be a 2 and a 5. Yeah. In fact, right. One of those is a 2. Because of these. Is that relevant? If this is a 2, then this can be whatever. Sure. What digit is hard to place? 3? But 3 can be next to the 2 and it would be fine. Well, 3 cannot be there because this cannot be a 1 or a 2. Yeah, that's it. 3 cannot be there, so 3 is in one of those. Now, it could be there because that could be a 2. And 3 could just be up there. Okay, no. That's not too relevant. Maybe it's something like placing 6 in this row, because no, it isn't. If that's a 4, that's a 9. Then one of those is a 4. But it could be just next to the 2 and it would be fine. In fact, no, 4 cannot be there. But that's you know, that's a minor point. But 4 cannot be there because they cannot be a 1, 2, or 3. So that has to be at least... So this has a minimum of 4. So this has a minimum of 5. So it's either 5, 8, or 9. Yeah. Now, what else? If the... What can this be? It cannot be low, right? Because if it is, it has a problem. The minimum it can be is 3. And then you would need 1 and 2 next to it. But that could be a 1 and that. No. Okay, that couldn't be... What's the minimum this can be? Because that can be a minimum of 3. So that has a minimum of 4. But 4 does seem to work. 4 with 2 makes that a 6, but that could be just a 3-cell arrow. So I don't know. I still suspect it has to do something with this. Because... Yeah, 2, 5 is the minimum. But what, you know, what's the ways of making 8? You have 1, 7, which doesn't work. 2, 6, which doesn't work. And 3, 5, which doesn't work. Wait, 2, 6, does that work 2 with a 6? That totally works, I almost missed that. But okay, no, let's label that. It's either 2 with a 6. 7 is not 1, 6, not 3, 4. It could be 2, 5. And 9 is not 1, 8. Not... It could be 2, 7. It couldn't be 3, 6. And it couldn't be 4, 5, so that is just a 2. Then whichever digit it goes with. Interesting, okay. But that does block out a lot of stuff, because now this 3 has to be in one of those, right? Because if the 3 is there, that has to be either a 1 or a 2, and that cannot be a 3. So 3 is in one of those, so that cannot be a 3. Oh, that cannot be a 3. Yeah, sure. But what does that do for the logic of this puzzle? If it has a 3, it has to be with a 1, but we know. Now that can be a 4 though, because that can now be a 3. This has a minimum of 3, this had a minimum of 4. But 3, 4 is 7, and that could be a 2 with a 9. But that does somewhat work. Placing 9 in that box hasn't gotten any harder. Now for this it has, one of those is a 9, right? Because that cannot be a 9. 9 cannot be in any of those. It cannot be in a black cell with a purple cell next to it. So one of those is 9. But that's like, yeah, sure. What does that do for me? I feel like you have to use everything you have, but then again, that isn't a lot. I'm hoping to finish this puzzle today, or at least until I figure out the next thing, because this hasn't unlocked anything yet, has it? No, I don't think it has. There might be possibly more stuff I can do somewhere else, but I feel like this has to be able to be done. Yeah, this has to be doable somewhat. What's the most this could be? Because that has a minimum of 3 now. So that can be at most a 6. And it cannot be 1, 2. It couldn't be 6. So it could be 5. It could be 3, 4, or 5. So that has to be less than this. So this is also 1, 2, 3, or 4. But it isn't 1, 2, so it's 3 or 4. So that could never be a 3. So that's a 4 or 5. That has less options than I thought it would. But still that does leave me with a 3 and a 2. Possibly with a 9 being somewhere attached to it. Yeah. Now if that is a 4, that has to be a 5. If that is a 4, that has to be a 5. But that doesn't... Well, yeah, okay, because that cannot be a 1. If that is a 5, that is... If that's a 4, that is a 5, then that is either a 3 or a 4, but it couldn't be a 4, so then it would be a 3, so it would put an 8 there. So if that's a 4, that's an 8, but I don't see how relevant that is. Now, if I could possibly make sure that that isn't a 4, then that couldn't be a 5. And then we would have something, because then we would have a 7, 8, 9 triple. So if that is 5, we need... This couldn't be... So then that would be a 3, 4 pair. Which would put a 4 in one of those, but that's... Any option works. Okay. So it's either high digits we have to look at, or it's small digits. Because high digits cannot go in the black cells. 8, for example... 8 could be there, because it can have a 9 next to it. And that could just be a black cell. But no, it couldn't be 8. Okay, no, 8 isn't in one of those, 8 is in one of those. 9 is also in one of those, 7. Yeah, but 7 could be easily in one of those black cells. Seven I don't think can be there. Because that would make that an 8, that a 9, and that would put a 7 there again. So 7 cannot be in that cell. So 7 is in one of those. That's a 7, that's a 9. In fact... So the only option where this doesn't contain a 7, because either... So if that is 8 to 6, it doesn't contain a 7, but either that's 7 to 5 or 9 to 7. So then that always contains a 7. So the only option where... Oh, I hope that didn't make a horrible noise. The only option where this doesn't contain 7 is when it contains 8. So if that is 8, then that is 8. Then 6 would be in one of those two, but that's okay. Or it contains 7 and one of those is 7. If it contains 9, then that's a 9. But that seems fine to me. I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing. Where can 8 go, 7 go? No. 8 does have more restrictions, because 8 has to be in one of those. No, 8 could be there. Right? Because then 7 would place a 9 there. No, that would make that a 5. That doesn't work. 8 couldn't go there. But that's such a minor point again. That I don't feel like that's the logic I am looking for. But that could be, this could be a 2. That would make, this is always a 7-8 pair. Sorry. If, no, I don't like that. 8 in this box has to be up there. 8, no, 8 could be there. I was gonna say in this column, where does 8 go? It goes either there or there. I am going to pause it again, and I'm going to look at it for another probably 15 minutes. I will be right back. Okay. It has been 5 minutes, I would say. But one thing I found is this 2. That is a fairly easy one. And then one was just me being dumb. I have everything in this column except this 4. And if someone saw that before me, I am sorry. That is just something I should have seen. But that's what it is. One of those is a 4 now. So that's not a 4. So that gives me a 1-2 pair. So that makes that a minimum of 3. So it cannot be that. So the bulb of this arrow is here. Can I draw that in? Yes, like that. And it is 4 with a minimum of 3, so it's a minimum of 7, so it's either 7 or 8. Sure. So it is a black square, because this is smaller than it. So it is not a black square. If it's a black square, that has a problem. So it's a purple square. I don't know. So that's another 7 or 8. What does this do? It unlocked all of this. So this now is a minimum of 4. So that has to be higher than 4. Because it cannot be 1, 2, 3. So it's at least a 4. So this being higher than 4, it is 5, 6, 8, or 9, because it cannot be a 7. I don't know. I don't know how to deal with that better. If that is a 7, we know that that's 4, 3. If that is 8, that could be double 4, right? That could just be double 4. But that could never be a 5, so that's either a 3 or a 4. Now 4. Well, that could be a 4, I guess. Yeah, that could be double 4, or it is 5 with a 3. Double 4 seems weird to me, but that is how arrows work, I guess. That is always lower than this one. So this one. Where can I place 6 in this box now? Because if 6 is there, it goes with 7, 8, 9. then that's a 7, 8, 9 triple, and then we already have 6, so that would be a 5. Then we would break with 5, 8, and 9. So if that's a 6, we have a problem. So 6 is not there. 6 is in one of those two. So 6, so this is a 6, 9 pair. So we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. That's not a 7. That is not an 8. But one of those is 5. So 5 goes back. One of those is a 5. So that is a 4. I am going to remove that lining now. I am happy this is all working out. I'm very happy this is all working out the way I hoped. I can remove that coloring as well. We know what it is. So yeah, that is either 3 or 4 still. What can we say about anything? That can now not be a 7. But that see, okay, yeah, no, I'm just going to let it be for what it is. If that's a 3, what is this? It's not a 4. Could be a 5, I guess, with a 6. That would be 7, 9. And then that would have to be like... Wait, if that's a 5... oh, no, it cannot be a 5. What can this be? It can be 3. Not 4. Not 5. Not 6, because we looked at that. So it is a... it cannot be 1, 2. It can be 3. It cannot be 4. It cannot be 5. It cannot be 6, 7, 8, or 9. So it is just a 3, with that being a 4, and that being an 8. So that's not an 8. That's not a 4. That places a 4 there. So okay. So one of those now contains a 3 as well. That doesn't contain a 1 or a 3, and 1 or 3 are up there, so that's a 1, 3 pair. What digits am I missing now? Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, so that is a minimum of 5. So this is 5, 6, or 7. If that's 7, this has to be 8 or 9, so that doesn't work. If that's 6, that has to be a 7. But that's okay, I think. So this has to be bigger than a 5, so it is 6 or 7. Oh, that 8 places a 6 there. And an 8 there. So there's an 8 there. So that's a 7. Then I have 1, then that is a 5 or a 6. 5 or 6. And it doesn't really matter at this point. Well, no, that cannot be a 5, right? Because if that's a 5, then that is a 6. So that's a 5. That's not a 5. So in this row, this is the only place 5 can go, and then we have a 6 there. Then that's a 9, that is a 6. Cool, okay, I am still happy we're on the right track. I am so doubtful in this puzzle. I have made mistakes earlier on, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a minimum of 4. So it's 4. Oh, not that 4. It is 4 or 5, because that has to be higher than it. Okay. Is there anything else we can discover? Now that's not a 5, so that's not a 7. So that gives me the 8, 9, so that's a 7. That is an 8. So that's probably, if that's a 5, what is this? Because then that's a 6, so we're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9. So if that's a 5, that has no fill. So that's a 4. That's why they revealed that square. I think. I'm not sure. I cannot look in the mind of SkepticalMario, but with this puzzle you're kind of trying to, and it is hard to figure out what exactly the ideas are. This puzzle in specifically, grid 6, gave me a lot of trouble. I don't know. Some of the other, puzzles and stuff, they go by a bit easier. This one felt very, very difficult. And I don't know if it's just because of the difficulty scaling that is if that's even a thing in the puzzle, or just because it's me and I am not that good at these puzzles. That's a 5 or a 6. So we're missing 3, 5, 6, 7, 9. That's not a 3. I saw that because of this 3, but I could have seen it by this 4 as well. If that's a 3, that has to be smaller than it and cannot be. So we know that that's a 3. So what can this be? It cannot be 1, 2, 3, 4. Could be 5. Can be a lot of stuff actually. So let's just label it. It is 5, 6. Possibly 7, 8, and 9 doesn't work. Okay, 5, 6, or 7. What's these last two cells? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 2 or 4. Both are smaller than 8, so that doesn't matter. Let's see. This now doesn't influence each other anymore, because, this can be either one and this can be either one. So that is being resolved by this. What am I missing in this column? It's 8 or 9. So that's an 8 or a 9. Sure. Which cell is it then? 9? 9 is in one of those. 9 cannot be there, so 9 is in one of those. Well, okay, so 9 is up there, 9 is up here, so 9 is down here. And that's a 7. And that reveals the last of the stuff. Have I unlocked that yet? That red thing? I don't think I have. I've seen it before, but I don't think I've unlocked it yet, because it's also here. And there. I don't think I've unlocked it, but I'm not sure. I don't think this, I can assume that connects. I might be able to, but I don't feel comfortable with that yet. It might be that has to be that way, but I think I'm good for now. 4. I've almost done it. 4s are done. 1s. Not yet. So where can 1 go? Is that a right question to ask? Because 1 can be in those, but 1 can also be there. So I don't think it is. This. If I assume that that's a 6, but I don't want to. I want to do it a different way. If that's possible, I don't even know if it is. One of those, that's an... Oh, no, that... Almost again. I wanted to say that is an 8, but that could be an 8. Because of the coin. Happy I caught that, because I really, really don't like the scanning with those coins. But that's more my own problem. I you know... 9. One of those is a 9. If that's a 9, that has to be bigger than it, and that's not possible. So that's a 9. So that is a 9. So that's all the 9s. Okay. So what is this? Not 2, 3, 4, 5. Could be 1, 6. Not 7, not 8 or 9. If it's 6, then that is 7, 8 or 9. So if that is 6, that is 7. And if that is 7, then one of those is 7. To me, that does seem like it should be able to work. I don't know if this connects, right? That is an unfair assumption. Though I also assumed that here, didn't I? I think so. 5, 6, 7. So one of those is 6 or 7. Or 5. Okay. If this is 1, well, one of those is 1. Okay. 5, 6, 7. So that is 5, 6, or 7. With that 5, 6. Two can be there or there. Wait, that can be 8, no? Yes. Oh, that is a bad pencil mark then. Because 8 can either be there or there. If that is 8, well that is already 8. If that is 8, that's a 6. Then we have 5 and 7 up here. I do not want to assume that that's a 6. Did I assume that here as well? I must have. Because that doesn't have to be connected. But this goes like that and this goes like that, but these could be the same and these could be the same, and then it's fine. That 9 places an 8 there. Gives me a 9 there. That's it. Thank you. 6. Is that it? That's not it. That doesn't have to be 6. So that's a 7. Oh, that's a 7. So I'm missing 1, 2, and 6. 1, 2, 6. So that's a 5 or a 7. Why does it have to end so difficult? Yeah, that is what it is. 8 I've done all the 8s, I think. I've done all the 9s, 7s. Not done every 7. Where can 6 go in this box maybe? Because if that's a 6, that would have to be 7, 8, or 9, and it cannot be, so 6 isn't one of those. 6 isn't there, so 6 isn't one of those. Which means 6 isn't one of those, so that has to be a 6. But it cannot be, because that cannot be a 6. Let me check real quick. Oh, okay, no, I was just being dense. Sorry for the pausing in this video. I'm very scared that I made a mistake. And I keep looking back, but I should just move on. One of those is a 6, right? Now, well, okay, no, the easiest thing to say is if that's a 6, then that is smaller than it, so it's not a 6, so it's a 1. With a 2 there, with a 6 there. Yeah, sure. With a 5, a 6, a 7. With a 1 or a 2. With a 1, a 2, a 1. 2's done. With a 5. 7's. What do I have left? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. None of those are 7, none of those are 3. So these aren't 5 and 6. That 6 places a 6 there and a 5 there. Now I have the 5, the 7, the 7, the 3, the 3, the 1. And it's done. That's the level done. You plug the Akari lantern into the generator, and its energy has cleared fog from much of the castle. I have not learned what those lines are yet? Really? Those lines are everywhere. Okay. Oh, I see a lot more stuff. This recording has gone on for 52 minutes. I am going to... Which one? Which one I'm going to look at? Which one do I want to look at? I think I'm gonna continue the library. But that's more of a 50-50 question. So what did it say again? This digit determines where the 4 goes. Yeah, it is. So if... Okay, so the thing is, both of if these are the same polarity for German Whisper. So if they are both high, I want to uncover another boss puzzle. That's my goal for today. I'm going to uncover another boss puzzle. If these are both high, they are 7 and 9, but that would place a 4 in that arrangement, and that doesn't work. So they are low. So they're 2, 3, 4 because it's not a 1. One of those has to be a 4. Because if that's not the case, then we would have 4s arranged like that, and that doesn't work. So that always has to be a 9. This couldn't be a 3. Oh, no, it couldn't be a 3. So that means 4 is in one of those. Sure. So this is a high digit as well. And it's not 6, 8, or 9. So it is a 7. So that has to be the 2. That has to be the 4. And that doesn't reveal anything. Okay, so that places a 4 there. Why did that not reveal anything? I was really hoping it did. That's a 7. That's just more blank puzzle. Okay. So what else? Sudoku? Of course, doing Sudoku in the Sudoku puzzle. 1, so that's a 1. 1, 1, so one of those is a 1. 5. 5 is there. 5, 5 is in one of those, so that's a 1, 5 pair. Now 3 is in one of those. And 6 as well. 3, 6. So I have left here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that must be an 8. And this is a 1, 2, 2. So that's a 2. Okay. Now what am I missing in this? In this box it is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 and 9. Oh, of course. 2 and 9. And then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What did I miss? 7 and 3. So that's a 7. 7, that's a 3. This is where I make the most mistakes, where it's just plain Sudoku. So I am very careful with that. I'm missing 2 in this column, and this box as well. What? Oh, I placed, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 and 5. What does this do? Why is there just a 5? Why is it just a 5 there? I don't know. There's 5s there as well. Why? And a 5 there as well. Akari Lantern. Why is there a blank eye? Okay. What? There is more stuff. I'm sure there is more stuff. These... Are these the same digit? Sorry, I'm gonna try and fill that in. I also wanted to look at the library more. Okay, I have choices to make. I'm going to look at that. I just really want to look at it. 7, 8, 9, so that has to be a 3. So that has to be a 3. Oh. You found a hidden puzzle. And that resolves this, right? Because I need to be able to see 2 digits. And I see that 9, so I need to see 2 of these digits. So if that is 5, that is 7, 4. That does work. So if that is 4, then that's 7, and that doesn't work. So that cannot be 4. So that is 5, 7, 4, and that resolves that whole puzzle. Okay, I'm going to do that real quick. 8, 9. Now I'm happy I pencil marked everything. 2, 2, 6 with a 1 and a 3. And a 3 and a 1. And a 5. Right, yes. With a 6 and a 4. And that's that grid complete as well. Okay, okay. That is a lot of progress. It has revealed stuff here as well. Because I remember there being there's a book. That book says, where does the 7 go? It cannot be 5, it cannot be 9, so it is a 7. So that's a 5, that's a 9, that's a 5, that is a 9, 5. I think I can resolve this whole puzzle with that, right? That must be like that. One of those of not a 5 now. Now in this column, one of those of 5, so that's not a 5. This 1 makes that a 9. I couldn't see that before, I'm pretty sure. 4, 1, 4, 8. That is still unresolved. But that's now not a 9. So that's another 1, 4, 8, but that's stuck because that will be resolved by this, I'm pretty sure. That 9 gives me that 5. It gives me a 7, 9. So that's now an 8, 6, 8, 6, 5, 9. Well, what is that being resolved by that 9? Okay, 9, 7, 7, 4, and the last things aren't resolved. Okay, that's nice cleaning up, but I still want to uncover another boss puzzle. This one is going to be a bit longer because I am going to go until I uncover another boss puzzle. But it's just normal Sudoku at this point for this puzzle at least. That must be doable. What am I missing? 4 is in one of those. In fact, what am I missing in that column? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 or 8. Then those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's not a 3. That's not a 9. That doesn't help me quite a lot. That doesn't help me that much. Where do you continue that puzzle then? Do I have to do more stuff to uncover more fog? I don't think so. I have uncovered one of the puzzles, one of the hidden puzzles, which is that one in the middle. But that's for a later time. That's not for now. One? No. What number do I have a lot of? 8? 8? No, not even. I placed all these 5s and 6s, right? Yes. Yeah. This has all been placed. This 4 has been placed. 4 is in one of those. No, it has to be something that is here as well. Three, 6. Well, okay, so 6, 6, 6. So one of those is 6. There's no other digits where I can do that with, I'm pretty sure. Is that a dead end for the library? I almost cannot believe that. I don't know, that feels weird. I feel like that shouldn't be the case. These 2s have all been placed. Yes. Sevens. Okay. I don't have those red lines yet, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I need more knowledge for those red lines. You know, okay, I said I was going to continue until I found another boss puzzle, but I think it is time for me to start looking at what I'm supposed to be doing again and figuring that out before I continue. What am I missing here? It is... So that's a 1. We know that that's a 1. Because up here is 2. So that's a 2. What am I missing? 1, 2, 2 and 8. So that is another high digit. So it is 8 or 9. That just has to be higher than a 2, but there's a lot of stuff higher than a 2. So that must not be where we continue next. I still want to find the boss puzzle, like I said. Just a buzz puzzle. It doesn't really matter which one. So because 8 cannot be in here, right? 8 is down here somewhere. So it sees this digit. If this is 9, 8 could be behind it. No, there's a lot of ways to make that 3 work. Maybe with this 4, I don't know. And this is just a big palindrome line with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Okay. Where do we continue then? You know what? Yeah, no. Sorry, I keep being dragged into this puzzle. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.